Hey, thank you, Val. Once again, my name is Joshua Hammer. I'm the Sales Operations Manager here. A little bit about me. I've been with Sucuri now for 4 years. I'm married and have two beautiful little girls, and I love games. It doesn't matter what kind, video games, board games, puzzles of all sorts. I even look at security as a game. With that, let me go ahead and hand you over to Steve.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Renteria, account manager here at Sucuri. Been with the company now for a little over 2 years. I also have a few daughters, 3 beautiful daughters, 19, 13, and 11. So I'm right in the thick of teenage years. Also, I've been a musician for most of my life. Play guitar, bass, a little dabble in drums, do a little bit of vocals. Here sound better in the shower though, I guarantee it. Definitely a foodie on my end. I love to cook, love to eat, love to try out new recipes. You'll always find me in the kitchen. Served in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years back in the early 2000s. So I learned a lot about security and how to take care of important things and discipline when it came to security.
Fantastic. So today, what are we going to do? We're going to do a little bit about feature benefits. And it's a sales technique. It's an oldie but a goldie. We'll go a little bit into the CDN and what makes our CDN special and how it helps speed up your site, what a firewall is and how ours is different. And then Steve and I will be happy to answer any questions you have. So get them in here so we can answer them. So feature benefit, it's fun in sales. We speak features quite a bit because the feature is the product, right? It's all the facts about the product, what it does, that kind of stuff. But features don't sell. Benefits sell. Everybody wants to know how it will help them, and that's what the benefits is. What is it in it for me? So with a CDN, what is a CDN? Well, the Content Delivery Network is basically a distribution of servers around the world that helps speed up your websites. So CDN, the feature for ours is that we're distributed via an Anycast network around the world in over 9 locations. What's that mean to you? Well, the benefit would be that, no matter where you're at, your end users are at in the world, we're going to direct them to whatever endpoint is closest to them. This way, if somebody's in Tokyo, we're not sending them all the way back to Dallas to get that information. We're going to send them to the Tokyo server, and that way it's a faster connection. Same with London. The cool part about an Anycast network, it's all the same IP. We just pick whichever one's closest to the end user. With that, there are different types of CDNs out there. There are pull CDNs and push CDNs. So what's the difference? Well, push CDN requires that the site owner pushes all the information up to the CDN. That means that when you first create the CDN, you're loading all this files onto the CDN so that it has all that information. And every time you make an update, it doesn't matter how big or how small, you need to push all that information up to the CDN again. With a pull CDN, and which is how ours works, we don't actually have you push all the information. What happens is the first time somebody comes in, the CDN queries the main server, and we pull that information onto the CDN. What that means for you? It's less setup required for the developer because you don't have to load that up. We pull it. Yes, the first person is a little bit slower, but everybody after that first person has all the information already on the CDN for you. And it's just a lot less setup, which is fantastic. So what about a firewall? Well, let's look at it this way. Imagine your website's the house. You got a ton of people outside the house. Those are all of your traffic that want to come and visit your website. That dude in the background, he looks a little grumpy, so he probably made some people mad. So what do? Well, you want to open your door to your friends and family, but all those grumpy people out there, you don't want them in your house. You want to keep the bad people out, right? So that's kind of what the firewall does for you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I love that analogy of the house because that's exactly what it does. The feature that we're talking about when it comes to the firewall is, it's going to do exactly what you expect it to do. It's basically it puts locks on all the doors and windows of your house. Basically the house being your website in this analogy. And what that's going to do is it's going to the way that we have the firewall activated is what we do is we have you move your DNS record to point to our firewall IP. So what does that do for you is it takes all of your traffic on layer 3, 4, or 7 and directs it all to us. So what that does is, as far as a benefit for you and for your clients, is that means that there's absolutely no load on your servers and your infrastructure for any type of malicious activity. So that means all malicious activity is being filtered and mitigated through our servers under our IP. And what we do is we filter out anything that's malicious and only allow good or benign traffic to go through. This works perfectly for bots that are malicious. Every day there's some sort of hacker putting information on them online, writing lines of code in order to either manipulate or infiltrate your sites. And what this firewall is doing is it's blocking said behavior and making sure that that doesn't get through. Another wonderful feature about the firewall is our virtual patching. So this is in-house technology that we use, and as new threats are made available to us, or we're made aware, the world's made aware, whether that threat is coming from a plugin update or a WordPress, Joomla, Drupal type of update, any type of platform that you're utilizing, we add that threat to our inventory of known threats into our database for our firewall. And what our system is going to do is when that firewall is activated, if a bot or some hacker comes through to try and infiltrate that particular vulnerability, we're going to virtually patch the update for you using the WAF. So that means that you're going to get a notification letting you know that this particular vulnerability was trying to be accessed. We blocked it for you. And you're also going to get an update, or excuse me, a notification to update either the plugin or the platform of the website that you're building on. So it's a beautiful thing. It gives you time to react, gives you time to update, and it's just one less thing that you have to notify the client about, that, hey, something got through and we got to fix it. Don't need to worry about that. We actually fixed it for you and blocked that for you. So that's pretty much it that I have for those two features and benefits.
Now, we call these things zero-day attacks. These are things that the company may not be aware of, or if they are aware of, they haven't sent out a patch for it yet, because maybe they're still working on the patch. And so that's what a zero-day is. Now, our firewall team doesn't like us to tell people, and technically we're not allowed to tell people, but did you know we actually have a number behind how many 0 days we block?
No, I didn't know that. What's the number?
So far this year, I mean, the year's almost over, right? But our worst month ever this year, we blocked 92% of 0 days. That's the worst month. So that means we only let 8% of the 0 days through. Which is fantastic. And those are just off of base firewall rules, nothing we had to do to change them. Just our base rules block 92% of the 0 days. Now, our best month is we block them all. But, we're not allowed to actually write that down. That's a no-no, because then, a 0 day gets through and everybody's like, well, they said they block them all. Well,
it's kind of nice if they could put a blog together or something like that for that kind of information, but I guess not. Huh?
Yeah, no. I am curious though. We'd like that picture in the webinar. How many takes did that take before they actually snapped that? I'm just curious now.
That was one take, Josh. Actually, I took that photo.
That was a completely natural, in the moment, completely candid.
Fantastic. All right. Well, with that, guys, I like these things to be short, sweet, to the point. So we gave you a few features, a few benefits. The question is, what kind of questions do you guys have? Hit us.
Hit us up.
Yeah, that's why we call these the short webinar series, just so we get the right amount of information and allowing people to ask as many questions as they possibly can. Yes, we do have some questions coming in, and I just wanted to say this before we go to the questions. For anybody joining us later after the actual webinar started, we will be having this recording published on the webinar page. So the same page you subscribed on for this webinar is going to be the page that's going to hold the actual recording. As we do with all the other webinars, you can go through them in the past and watch them again if you like. Get the slides, get the transcript. We try to give out as much information as possible from each of these webinars, so that anybody that watches, or even people that cannot necessarily hear, they can read the transcript and so on. So let's move to the questions. The first one coming in from Mike here is, hi guys, thanks for the webinar. Thank you for joining. Most CDNs have issues with caching content, and after an update, it takes forever to go live. How do you handle that?
Well, there's a few ways actually. So one of my favorite features is we have actually what's called a developer mode. So you can put in your IP and say that you're a developer, and what that does is, for one, it doesn't show you any cache content. So as you're working on it, you're seeing the live site, and you don't have to wait forever for the site to update to see your changes. Now, when you want to push those changes live, it's just a click of a button to hit clear cache. There's another way with the API. Do you ever hand that out, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a simple. It's just a link, and anybody you give this link to can click it. They don't have to be logged into the Sucuri dash, and what it does is it clears the cache for you. It usually takes about a minute or two to get through all the different servers that we have, but yeah, we make it simple.
That part right there is absolutely perfect for agencies, and if they're dealing with a client that likes to do a lot of content updates on their own, but you don't want to provide access to all of your sites on your Sucuri dashboard, this is perfect. You give them a link. As soon as they're done updating their content, they can save that link as a favorite. They load it onto their browser, and boom, cache is cleared. There's no wait time. They can see the changes almost immediately.
So there's no delay in dealing with the actual agency, identifying the customer, then push the cache clearing. It's just one push of a button.
That's it.
Nice.
Perfect. Next question here. Well, actually, it's like two questions in one, but I'm going to read it as one. Is it hard to quantify how much, if any, of a speed increase you can get? And also, the second part of the question asks, do you have any numbers behind that?
Oh, those numbers, those tricky numbers. So one fun thing that's in your dashboard that gets overlooked, I think, a lot of times is when you set up the firewall, what we do is we actually run a speed test on your site before it gets moved over to the firewall. Then after it's behind the firewall, we do a few more. We'll actually quantify a percentage of an increase from that base from beforehand to what it's at now. Can I promise you what those numbers will be? No, not at all. But I have had customers where we've looked at theirs, and I've seen 3,000% increases on some. It really depends on what location in the world that you're at and where the tests are being run from. But absolutely, we can quantify it.
A very short question here coming up from Jocelyn. How many people, many people want to try before they buy. Is that an option?
I don't know. What do you think, Steve? Do we let people try before they buy?
Yes, we do. We do have the option for a free trial to try the WAF out and see how it's going for 30 days. So a lot of folks like to try this out. They just want to get familiar with the controls, see how it works. Once an agency or a single website owner sees how easy it is to use and how well it works with the reporting and everything, it's usually a slam dunk. So like this webinar is, it's a sales enablement webinar. It's to give you power to be able to talk to people and show them how things work. But if you yourself are curious on how to get started with this, yes, absolutely. We can set you up with a free trial. You can contact myself or anybody on the team. One of the account executives can get that started for you.
Or come in and chat, and we can set you up there. And I think in a week or two, there will actually be a spot on the website where you can sign up for a trial.
That's right.
Yes, I can concur. There will be. I almost jumped over the next one, but I'll read it anyway because Tom was very kind, and his question was, well, actually not a question about this webinar, but he's like, we want to hear more Val on these webinars. When will he be doing another one? Soon. I can neither confirm nor deny, but soon. And thanks so much, Tom, for paying attention. Okay, next question. We got two more questions before our time is due, so let's see if we can make it. Is the activation for the WAF and CDN done by us or by Sucuri? And what is needed from us if we have to do it?
So the WAF and CDN, they work together. So when you activate the WAF, all your traffic is being distributed through our Anycast network on the CDN after the firewall, or excuse me, after your site is pointed to our firewall IP. Activation of it, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is simply just changing your DNS A record to point to our firewall IP. That IP address is provided to you once your account is established and you have that site added to your Sucuri dashboard. We do have a knowledge-based site, kb.sucuri.net. From there, it does have step-by-step instructions. Some of that information is a little outdated. We are working on a update for the KB. But to answer the other question, which is, yes, you can do it yourself. The information's available. You can even get assistance via chat. But we can also do it for you by just simply submitting a support ticket. You can do that under the support tab. It's right next to the malware removal request. And from there, you can request one of our firewall technicians to activate the firewall for you. So what they'll need is access to your host. So you would just provide your host login credentials in that secure ticket, and then we'll be able to redirect that A record for you, get the WAF and CDN activated. We can also activate other aspects like your server-side scanning and monitoring from that single ticket as well.
We're here to help you, so don't be afraid to ask, and we're not going to charge you to set it up for you. So
free setup.
That's right.
Next question. We're about almost out of time here. Since all of the traffic is going through your servers before it goes to ours, are my sites going to slow down at all? I've seen this question so many times. So any one of you gentlemen want to take it back?
Josh, you want to talk about that one?
Oh, sure. It's funny because a lot of people ask that, but the reality is it actually speeds things up. We are a CDN built in with the firewall, okay? I'm going to tell you that, yes, our number one priority is keeping your site safe. The fun thing is, though, our secondary priority is to speed up that site, and we do that with the CDN. And what we do is we cache static content, and what that means is that all the content such as pictures, the page layout, that kind of stuff is all cached on our servers, and we display that to the user from us, whatever point is closest to them. If they do a request of something that is already on our servers, it's going to be fast. If they do a request on something that isn't on our servers or is updated live all the time, then it gets forwarded over to your server. But there really isn't a slowdown there. 3/4 of what people look at is that cached content. So it's funny because I want to say it was WP Engine or WP Beginner. I'll have to double check, but they did a testimonial for us, and they actually show that their servers had a marked decrease in load, making them able to do more sites for less money because they were using the CDN.
Yeah, short answer just being that, most of our clients, as soon as they activate the firewall and start utilizing the CDN, a huge percentage of them see an increase in speed despite all the work that's being done while we're mitigating traffic. So definitely not something to worry about, but it is a question that comes up. So it's important to understand. I had a question though. Doesn't the CDN work with dynamic content too? And how does that play into it?
It does with some of the dynamic content. It depends on the caching settings that each individual site has set up. So our CDN recognizes your caching headers and will cache content based on whatever headers you put in there. If you tell us to cache something, we'll cache it. If you tell us not to, we won't. To a point. I mean, we're always going to cache that static content, but beyond the static content, any of the dynamic content that you want us to cache, we'll cache that too.
Awesome. We're about out of time here, but I see questions keep coming in. So just to clarify, we will be having Joshua and Steve answer all of these questions. So even if they weren't answered live in this session, We will have a document on the webinar page, like I mentioned, and all the questions will be there with their answers. I just want to thank Joshua and Steve. This was the 4th episode of the Sucuri Sales Enablement Team series.
I think you miscounted there, buddy. This is the 3rd.
Oh, the 3rd. Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry, you're right. We're gonna have a 4th one, December 12th.
That's right.
So make sure you come and register. Thank you so much again for everybody watching, taking time out of your, I'm sure, very busy mornings. Thanks, Josh and Steve. If you want to say goodbye to the people, and then I'm just going to close here.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And you can tell how much of a headache I am to work with. Val's already counting number 4, and we haven't even hit there yet. So, but I do hope you guys join us. It'll be myself and a guest speaker. I don't know who yet, but we will be going over malware trends and what we're seeing live right now. It is the season for credit card swipers and scrapers, right? Everybody loves their online shopping this time of year, and the hackers love getting that credit card information. So we'll be going over some trends and what you can do to protect yourself from them. Firewall's a big step, guys. So if you haven't yet, then contact us for a trial so you can get your site behind a firewall, especially for the holiday season here. And then we can work with you on keeping it for the rest of the year. But I do hope I see you on the 12th, was it, Val?
Yes, December 12th. We'll have the page up soon, so if you guys follow us on, social media, Twitter, Facebook, so on, we'll most likely announce it in the upcoming days.
Fantastic. And I do see Gustavo had a question. Gustavo, reach out to myself or to Steve, and we can work with you on that.
I think I have his email, so maybe I can connect you guys so you can directly reply to him. And thanks, Gustavo, for posting that question. Okay, goodbye, everyone, I guess, and we'll see you back on December 12th with another webinar.